Hello and welcome to another episode of Run Till You're Done. This week's guest has got a fascinating running history and is one of Scotland's finest ultra runners. Not only that, he is a coach and a mentor to the next generation and adults alike. Welcome to the show, Robert Thunder.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Using my Sunday name as well. Enjoy it. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Get right to the point. First question we ask everybody is, how did you get into running?
Okay, so I've had a go at this twice in my life. As a teenager, the village I was brought up in, it was a little small mining village in South Lanarkshire. Had a road running club. All the adults did a lot of road running. You can imagine all the short shorts in the 80s as well. And the really tight vests and the silver shadows. I think the Nike silver shadows is what they all wore, rather than the sort of Nike what you got nowadays, the Vaporflies and Alphaflies and all that. It's all the silver shadows. So a group of guys set this up, and I had so much energy. My parents just said, right, we need to take you along to the kids section. And so yeah, I went along and absolutely loved it straight away. Lots of like now, a lot of people with your own sort of mindset, so it was good for that. And then we eventually the adults would go away to races all the time, half marathons, 10Ks, all across the country, and they'd just take all the kids with them. And we'd all go and do the fun runs and things like that. So there was nothing like track or anything like that involved. It was always just a bit of road running and a bit of hill running as well. They did a bit of hill running down in the borders because we're quite close to the Scottish borders. In fact, actually, one time, one of the coaches who used to take us to Broughton every year, the Broughton Hill Race, every year we would go for maybe 3 or 4 years. And it was the only time we ever got a minibus. And it was only when we got older we realised that this coach would put 15, 16 kids onto a minibus, take them down and do the hill race. He'd go off and do the adults one, we'd do the kids hill race. But everybody got a bottle of beer, regardless of what age you were, right? Everybody. And of course, the coach comes onto the minibus at the end, and we're all like, look at our bottle of beer. And you say, sorry, kids, you have to give me your bottles of beer. And so all of us had to give this coach all of our bottles of beer. So he made out of that one for sure. And that was the only time we ever got a minibus anywhere. Every other time it was parents taking us and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it was good fun. And then I started racing track at school and things like that as well, because I'd started running. I thought I was well joining particularly at high school, I was well going and doing the school sports and seeing how that works out, and end up, I don't know, winning school sports races. Then I started doing sort of Lanarkshire schools side of things, 800, 1500, things like that. And then I was like doing quite well, podium at Lanarkshire schools, things like that, and then the sort of coaches at the club weren't really track coaches, and so they suggested that I try and reach out to somewhere else to get a wee bit of additional coaching. And so I went to Falkirk, Victoria Harriers, a coach called Willie Sharp from there. And from there on, I just started going stratospheric. It was obviously completely different training, completely different coaching. I was training like 7 times a week, which is probably a bit too much for a 15-year-old when you think back. I certainly wouldn't have my daughter doing that now, but training was good. The coaching was great. And I ended up, I was under 2 minutes for 800, just over 4 minutes for 1500, high 8s for 3K and things like that. But I've actually, funnily enough, I'd had my identity was a distance runner. I'm a distance runner. I'm an 800 meter runner. It was this time of Ovett, Cram, and Tom McKean and Coe and all those guys. So that's who we all wanted to be. But it was actually a 400 meters that I won in the Scottish Indoor Champs at the old Kelvin Hall in the late 1980s. So yeah, it was a 400 meters that I won. I can remember standing on the podium, and this wee guy from mining, South Lanarkshire mining village, standing on the podium with all his kit on, standing next to 2 guys who were in full Scotland kits. So they'd obviously been selected for Scotland in the past. And I was like, oh, I've made it now. These 2 guys are Scottish level athletes. But that was also the same year that I completely gave it up. 1989, I completely gave up. I had a summer season. I'd started working in the supermarket. My pals were all going out at that time. You're 16 years old, everybody's starting to go out. So I was like, fear of missing out. And so, yeah, sort of started going out drinking with pals, smoking, partying, late nights, all that kind of stuff. And I gave it up probably at the tail end of 1989. Went to uni the next year, and all of that just went exponential. It was I think for the next 10 years it was just party time. And I'd always done a lot of sport despite that. I mean, I didn't run anymore, but I played a lot of five-a-side football, did martial arts for about 5 or 6 years. So I tried to keep sort of fit despite my smoking habit, drinking habit, recreational drug habit. But I think, I spent probably 10 years of just doing very little. So that's like number one. We've got time for number two. I know I'm going on and on here.
No.
And then met my wife in my late 20s, and we got married, trying to settle down a little bit more. And I'd been putting on a lot of weight, as you might expect. You can only get away with drinking lots and what have you, and eating the wrong foods for so long. It just eventually just sort of catches up with you. And then I was a contractor for a lot of years, like self-employed contractor, and I was working down in Newcastle at this time. And there was a guy at work called Joe, massive hill runner from the Yorkshire Dales, and he was out running every lunchtime. And I think I remember one day sitting in the office bragging about how good I used to be, and he said, "Well, come out with me then. Let's go for a run." I went, "Yeah, come on in, let's do that." And so put on an old pair of trainers one lunchtime, went out with Joe, and this guy's he's a 35-minute, or he was a 35-minute 5K guy. He's not slow at all. He's really quite sharp and a great hill runner. But I remember we did 2 miles on the old wagon way out behind our work, and I was absolutely breathing out my backside. I was so unfit, and I think, that was a real eye opener about how unfit I actually was. Me thinking that I could retain some kind of level of fitness over the years, but I was done. I was ghost. I was lying on the ground when we got back, and he said, "Look, why don't you come out again tomorrow?" I went, "Yeah, okay. If my legs recover, I'll come out with you." So we did that, and I just kept going out running with him. And then started entering races down in Newcastle, and but we then eventually would go out most lunchtimes and we'd run from sort of Long Benton area where my work was. So there's a little wagon way that runs to I think it's called the Rising Sun Country Park, runs past the Newcastle FC training ground and stuff like that. So we did that every day and just started building up fitness. And as you know, as soon as you start building fitness and you drop all the bad habits, your energy levels, your fitness levels just all start rising at the same time. And so that was my return to running. So I've got Joe to thank for that.
How long do you think that it took from being not so fit, in however you want to put it, that, to thinking I'm getting back into this now?
Yeah, I tried to have a think about that. I mean, I think it was probably I entered a race called the Clive Cookson 10K in Whitley Bay. Joe was doing it anyway, and he says, "Come along and do this race." And I think I had been running with him for about 6 months, or running in the treadmill in the gym, or doing a wee bit of work, maybe 4 or 5 times a week or something like that. And he says, "Come along and do this 10K." So I thought, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? And I was so nervous. I can remember standing in the start line thinking, how nervous am I? This is ridiculous. I've done a lot of races in the past. I don't know why I'm so nervous. But I ended up running 40 minutes for that race. So I would say maybe about 6 months into it, Mike. Probably about 6 months.
And was that your first race back the second time round?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And actually went back and did that race a couple of years later after I'd been got properly back into running again. I think I ran 33 minutes. So it shows you a wee bit of commitment can return good results. It was a great race, great fun. It was like a Wednesday night one, So I was down there Monday to Friday. I used to come home at the weekends, and there's loads and loads of stuff going on down there. There's a really big running community in Newcastle and the surrounding areas. It's got a really big running history. Got Morpeth Harriers and Crams from down there. McLeods are another family of runners down there that are quite famous. So yeah, there's a real good atmosphere for it all.
And you said it took you 6 months to get back to sort of fitness, but how long did it take we're talking about second time round, because you were obviously the first time round you're saying about your coaches and stuff, they were pushing you to it. But the second time round, when you were doing it as an adult, you were doing it because you wanted to do it. By it, I mean running.
Yeah.
How long do you think it took, or was there a moment that you thought, I'm actually quite good at this?
Yeah, maybe. I'm actually quite good at this. Yeah, I don't like talking about myself like that, Mike. But you know, I actually at the time, you know, I did these races down in Newcastle, and I would race up here as well when I was home at the weekends. You know, Glasgow half marathon and things like that. But I'd probably just put myself in the bracket of average to decent club runner, and I probably still am that kind of average to decent club runner when it comes to the sort of shorter road race type stuff. I probably wouldn't have classed myself as a decent runner until I moved to ultra, which maybe we could speak about in a bit. But I certainly as a road runner coming into 10Ks and what have you in my 30s, I just thought I was just kind of average. I didn't think anything of it. But I have to say that I had some half decent results. I was never worrying the podium places then. I was never worried the podium places at all. I was maybe in the top 10 in races or what have you. But around about 2008, yeah, probably about 2008, I ran New York Marathon in 2007. And in 2008, I thought something needs to change here, because I think I was just running myself ragged, trying to get fit or trying to get faster. I was probably doing the whole thing all wrong. So I started doing a bit of research into sort of coaching methodologies. So I started looking at, you know, the usual suspects: Arthur Lydiard, Renato Canova, Bowerman, Jack Daniels, all these kind of people who were all there at the time. And I sort of tried to absorb as much as I could from them. But then I used to be on a forum called Let's Run. I don't know if you've been on it. It's horrendous. You can go completely anonymous on it, and the stuff that comes out of there's awful. It's like what X is like now. So I was on there, and I came across this coach, called himself Hadd, Hadd, but his name was actually John Walsh. He's a Maltese chap. I don't think he's no longer with us, actually. He died a number of years ago. But his methodology was all around sort of threshold training before threshold was fashionable. So it was like a couple of times a week you would do this threshold work, and the rest of it would all be heart rate based, easy running, steady running, but all within heart rate zones. And of course, we all know about heart rate. It's a kind of latent thing. It's not something you can get immediate response from, but it's like a guide, isn't it? It's not a definite thing, heart rate, and you don't really know what your max is, really, to be honest. And this was all based off your max heart rate. You can get a good idea what a max heart rate is, you know, for a hard 5K or a hard mile race or something like that. And so I started training around what this coach this coach's philosophy. And then in 2009, I'd done the training all over the winter, 2008 into 2009. Then the half marathon season started, and I went up to Inverness, did Inverness half marathon. I can't remember what position I was, but I ran 72 minutes. I thought, oh my goodness, what's happened here? Like, I was 76 before, 77 before, maybe 75 at my best, but I just knocked 3 or 4 minutes off my PB for running easy, essentially, for the whole winter. And then again, just maybe early April 2009, I had entered the Edinburgh half marathon, and that was a company who used to organise the Edinburgh one and the Dunfermline one. Now this year, they called it the Chris Hoy half. Chris Hoy had just won 1,000 medals at the Beijing Olympics, and he's an Edinburgh born and bred lad, and he was coming down to do the presentation of the prizes and all that kind of stuff. Now, I was also going on holiday the next day. We had friends staying with us, and we were going to Norway the next day for a skiing and snowboarding holiday. And we'd kind of worked out that I would need to do something like 75 minutes, 76 minutes, so that we could get away back to the house, to get showered, to get to the hotel. And so it was all a bit tight. And I thought, we'll go into this half marathon and we'll go on the plane, we'll go away and do our holiday. However, after the race started, I found myself at the front with a lad from Belgrave Harriers. I'll never forget the vest. I know it's a famous vest. And another lad, David Lindsay, who used to do a lot of running at that time. And I think by about 8 miles, I was on my own in the lead, and eventually won the race back in Musselburgh Racecourse, ran 71 minutes. And my pals were like, yeah, brilliant, well done, we need to go. And I'm like, well, I need to wait in prizes. The prize presentation's in like 45 minutes. And they said, we're going to miss a flight if you don't, you're going to have to just go, we just have to pick it up later. So I had to go and ask I went and asked the race director. I said, look, we're trying to get away on a skiing holiday, and I need to go. Could you go and drag Chris away from all the media stuff he's doing and tell him to give him my prize before I went ahead? And to be fair, he did it. So he went away and got to meet Chris's wife, and all that good stuff. It was really good. So yeah, maybe I thought at that point, I've made it a wee bit here. I've won quite a big race, I suppose, in a PB time. And I suppose maybe I thought, yeah, I'm maybe a bit decent now.
And something that Nikki doesn't know, back in must have been about 2013, something like that, I used to be on a forum called Fetch Everyone, and had training. There was a thread on there that I used to follow, and my heart rate was all over the place because my history as I had to have heart surgery. So I was training to my running friends' heart rate, but we used to go into this thread and follow it religiously. And there was one guy on there that was he wasn't John Had, he was the next best thing, he was Boab. I was Robert Turner. So
is that right?
There you go.
I remember that, yeah. I remember that, yeah. I was quite evangelical about it back in the day, Mike, because it worked for me. I thought it should work for everyone, but you know, and I know now that's not always the case. But and it doesn't work anymore for me. You know, it was a one-time thing. It's like I was building that big, massive base is what it was all about. And then even John Walsh himself said you could do this for a certain period of time, but eventually you'll hit a plateau, and you need to start bringing in the more specific stuff that we all know about. You know, what you're actually training for, an 800 meters or a marathon. You need to do that specific work. But I did all that. I got really fit off just that training. Yeah, it was good.
It worked for me as well. So
yeah.
So with a time of 71 minutes, it is unsurprising that you went on to represent Scotland. So with the process of that, how did you qualify, and what did it feel like to be asked to represent your country?
Oh, I mean, James Stewart mentioned it on your podcast a couple of episodes back. Represent, or was it just the last one? No, 2 episodes ago. Yeah, representing your country's like the pinnacle, isn't it? It really is the pinnacle, and pulling on that Scotland best for the first time. It's like you just wanted to stay on. You don't want it to come off. You know, it was amazing. But it came a bit later in my career. I mean, and a bit unexpected, I suppose, as well. It wasn't something I was looking for. Well, was I looking for it? No, I probably wasn't looking for it. I knew it happened, but it wasn't something I was targeting at the time. Once I got the first one, I wanted more of it, of course, but that first time I wasn't looking for it. I think when I was a younger junior, that was like the pinnacle as well. And then the story I just said about the standing next to 2 guys with their full Scotland kits on, that was a kind of goal that everybody wanted then. But you know, work and life and family gets in the way, and these kind of things kind of drift off. But I mean, yeah, I didn't really, when I got back into running as an adult, I never really thought about international vests. It really wasn't what was at the forefront of my mind. I was just seeing how good I could get, you know, with the training and racing that I was doing. It was just a sort of personal challenge. And then I mean, around 2010 and 11, probably due to that Fetch site as well, Mike, in part, ultra running started to become a focus for a lot of people that I knew. And I was still quite quick then. I was still running fast. For me, running fast for races and road races and what have you. And I had a kind of typical short road race mentality, quite ignorant to the whole ultra scene even at that time. And I was just like, that's for slow people. That's not for anybody like me. And you know, and a mate of mine had been at me for a wee while to try ultras, and I'm like, I'm not interested. It's just for those slow old people that just leave it to them, sort of thing, you know. Idiot. And then, but the same guy said to me, he says, look, I'm running the West Highland Way in 2013. This was the year before probably, and he said, will you help me out? Will you come and support me? I went, yeah, why not? Sounds like good fun. Sounds like a good day out. I like that part of the world. And after being a few years of fairly critical about ultra running, I watched Paul Giblin and Marco Consani run that race at 96 miles in 15 or 16 hours, I think, at that time. And I just thought, you need to swallow your pride here, and you need to take another look at ultra running, because this is not for slow people. If these guys can do it, this is a proper sport in its own right. And so my mind was kind of slowly changing to it. And in actual fact, that same year, probably just after the West Highland Way, the Go 33 entries opened. And my mate Stephen says, this is a perfect introduction to ultra running. Why don't you go along? Why don't you just enter it? So I thought, yeah, why not? So entered Go 33 that year, Devil of the Highlands the next year, had a couple of years of injury. And then I think it was maybe 2015. Yeah, it must have been 2015. I came back to run Go 33 because I'd been out injured for a while. So it's obviously a good introduction again. And that I also won. I won the race in 2013. I also won it in 2015, and it was a different direction, I think, that time though. And something that will always stay with me. James was in that race as well, actually, and he was third. But also another guy, Mike, you'll know quite well, who I beat that day. There's another Rob Sinclair. And I still say that for all the races Rob and I have done together, he's never beaten me. And so I'm proud of that. Very proud of that. It has to be said, it's only that one race that we've been in together, and it was like a long time before Rob came to his peak. So I've just put that caveat in. That yeah, I certainly can like his shoes these days. My goodness, he's running so well. So anyway,
I'm just absolutely gobsmacked, Robert, that you beat Rob, like that Rob Sinclair has been beaten. I thought he was unbeaten on everything and was the trail running Scottish gods of our community.
That was the very start of his running career, that race, and he just came out of nowhere and ended up second in that race, and was absolutely closing me down in the last 5 or 6 miles, according to James. The speed he went past James at. And I was struggling, so he was. If the race had been 35 miles, he might well have won it. Put it that way.
But he never.
But he never. He didn't. You're absolutely right. And the race was only 33 miles, and I won it. No, Rob's a great lad. But anyway, I think the ACP the following year was in Perth, and again, I didn't really know much about it, but Adrian messaged me and said, "Can we go for a coffee?" So I went for a coffee across from his old shop, and he just said, how would you feel about running 100k on the road? And I said, no, I'm absolutely crapping it, but yeah, why not? Desperately, it was like, oh wow, you'll get a Scottish vest, and that was my first one, 2016 Anglo-Celtic plate. I'm sure most people have heard what an Anglo-Celtic plate is, your viewers and listeners, but just in case you haven't, it's a international road race over 100 kilometres between Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland and Wales every year. It revolves around different countries every year. And that year, 2016, it was in Perth. And so, yeah, I mean, I think to say that you've been called up and selected for your country, it was a bit surreal at the time. But I mean, it was absolutely hooked on it after that. It was something that I had to do as much as I could, especially 2016, I was 44 years old, 43, 44 years old. I wasn't any young whippersnapper anymore. So, yeah.
I'm going to divert slightly off the question set, and sorry if this is a complete curveball for you. Just the way that the conversation works. On a personal note, had you had your children by that point? And if so, how did you fit in your training around working, being a dad, things like that? Because that's quite high level.
Yeah. Yes, I had both kids by that point. My eldest would have been 5. My youngest would have been 2 or 3. And my wife, I don't think anybody who's got young family like that, who also wants to do well in sport, can possibly do it without a good other half. I mean, my wife is absolutely supportive of everything that I've done.
I think you're right with the kids. Although they are chaos, they need to be at school at this time, and there is no option to be late. They need to do the club at this time, and if they're not there, the club will go on without them. So you have to work around their timetable.
That's right, definitely, yeah.
So thinking about your races, whether you want to say about normal races, non-ultra races, or shorter races, or your diet in general, what kind of thing do you fuel on?
Yeah, I think my diet's actually pretty good. My wife, again, I'll go back to my wife. Her mum, my mother-in-law, is a former home economics teacher, high school home economics teacher, and so everything's made from scratch. And my wife has taken that mantle on as well. So everything in this house is made from scratch. There's very little processed stuff. Gets bought on a week-to-week basis. So our diet is actually pretty good. Don't get me wrong, I can overindulge on certain things, but in general, it's pretty good, and it usually revolves around training as well. So if it's a big week, I'll be taking on more, that kind of stuff. But in terms of like racing, I think I've tried everything, and I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever gotten it right. I've never gotten it right, and I've made massive mistakes as well. I think I won one of the Anglo-Celtic plates in Wales in 2018. I'd won it, and I thought I won the British champs that year. I'll just say that, because it's probably the only time I'll get to say it. And I thought I'd nailed the hydration and the food for that race, which is just gels, probably something like Active Root at the time. I don't know what the gels would have been, maybe the sort of old SIS ones, or something like that. So gels and hydration, I thought I'd nailed it. Won that race by 7 seconds from Anthony Clark that year. It was the closest that race has ever been. But I then thought I could take the same, this just shows you how stupid I am. Then I thought I could take the same hydration and fueling strategy into the World Championships. So Anglo-Celtic plate was in Wales in March, maybe early April. Typical British weather. It was cool, it was windy, it rained, probably snowed. And then you go to Croatia in September and it's 30 degrees. And these are the kind of mistakes that I've made throughout my running. All the time I make these types of mistakes. So I thought I could take the same hydration and fueling strategy, and ended up dying a death about 70 kilometres into the race because I just hadn't eaten enough or taken on enough food. And then in other situations, I've had problems with bloating, toilet stops, being sick, and I've just never got it right. And I remember James said something similar. I think James Stewart said something similar. He's never got it right. And I think I'm pretty much similar to him with that. I remember when I started out and doing trails and going out for the day on the trails, I'd do an old Richie Cunningham classic of mashed potato and ketchup.
Yep.
And that was actually really good. That worked really well, or at least I thought it worked really well. But if you're running at 6 and a bit minute miles for 6.5 to 7 hours, ketchup and mashed potatoes doesn't go down. You'll be wearing most of it. And so it has to be gels. It has to be high sugar content stuff. And I think I've probably got some kind of internal issue that I can't take that. And I've tried training it, I've tried all that, taking more, and it just makes me worse. My body doesn't get used to it. So like I was out for a run today, for example, and I had 50 grams over 2.5 hours of carbohydrates, and that worked well. So I've just haven't found that sweet spot. But yeah, I think I've had a lot of problems with stuff, and I've tried everything. I've been down the Morton Precision Hydration. Active Route, Tailwind, and all the other ones under the sun. I've spent an absolute fortune on it. I suspect if I just went with table sugar and water, I probably would have saved enough money to take the family to Disney in Florida. And don't even get me started talking about shoes and the price, the cost of shoes. But yeah, I've spent a small fortune in hydration and never really got it right. So yeah, I'll be open to any advice and anything like that with it. But
well, what a lot of people don't realize is table sugar has got 50-50 balance between sucrose and fructose. So if you just put that in your water, which I have done quite a few times, that is your perfect dual carb intake. So
yeah,
why not just stick to table water? Sugar and water.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for it. Only because of price as well, mate.
Oh, yeah.
It's just much cheaper. A bag of sugar's nothing, and water's free. And I sometimes put a little bit of salt in. Got Himalayan pink rock salt stuff that's all ground down. I put that bit of that in, and then I'll flavour it with maybe like a little bit of lime cordial or orange cordial or something like that, just to give it a bit of better flavour than just pure sugar. But yeah, it seems to be okay just now. Certainly I've not had any problems. Although I did have to dive into the toilet today, actually. So maybe it isn't working.
And seeing as you brought, sorry, Mike, on you go.
No, I think there is research about how much, like, I know people say about training your gut for the high carbohydrate intake, but there's also, is that carbohydrate coming from just pure sugar, because you get GI issues from that as well. So I don't know the answer to it, but there is research out there.
And that research also, I think I read the research, is the more you take, the less of it gets used as well. So you could be loading up on lots of carbs into the system, but using a lesser percentage of it. And where does the other stuff go? Well, for me, that just sits about waiting to come out the other end. That's all that happens to me.
And it all comes out at once.
And it all comes out at once, yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe I need to try and find that sweet spot. And especially if I get back into ultras, which I'm hoping to do, I'll definitely need to work out what the best way is.
Well, what I was going to say was mashed potato and ketchup. You've brought, that's a new one. I think I'd actually take Mike's tin of soup over that, and I didn't think I could find anything much worse than that.
I actually really like that. I like that tin of soup idea as well. That's a really good one, actually. Especially just get one you just pull the ring. You're not having to open it with a tin opener. You just pull it off and down. That's a really good idea. I maybe have to think about that one as well.
Maybe weighty in the pack though. So
yeah, you maybe need to
got a drop
8
bag
station drop. Yeah, it's a drop bag one. Yeah.
As Bob said, the mashed potatoes and ketchup, that's a Richie Cunningham West Highland Way special.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the whole don't knock it till you've tried it, but it's the thought. That's a new one for me. So you mentioned about you had a coach the first time round. For the second time round, have you had a dedicated coach for the Scotland team, or have you been coached with the same person throughout?
So yeah, I mean, no, I was coached as a youngster, but when I got back into it as an adult, no, and I hadn't really considered coaching. But I think, and it's probably a bit of arrogance, I suppose. I thought I could do it myself. I thought I'm fairly bright. I could read up and research and understand it and what have you, and try and apply it to myself. But I think I've always, certainly now, I think there's a certain amount of accountability required, and you need someone else to look over what you're doing. And for sure, it's not as plain sailing as you think it is. But in 2016, I got to this first Scotland team on my own, just for my own training and my own self sort of thing. But I've been injured after that, and then in 2017, I think I entered the Devil, and yeah, I come back from injury, entered the Devil, pulled out at Bridge of Orchy, and probably more of a shit quit. I don't know if you need to cancel that out because it'll become as an Ian. It probably was more of that than anything else. I probably just wasn't fit enough to complete the race, and I thought I was, or complete it in the time that I thought I should be able to complete it in. And I thought to that at that point, I thought I think I need some help. And at that time, and still, who's the main man in Scottish ultra running was Paul Giblin, and so he'd had great success with obviously James and a number of other athletes, and I thought I wonder if I'll just give him a call and just see what he's got to say and see if we can work stuff out. And yeah, that's what I did. So I signed up with Paul in late 2017, I think. And he brought a whole new dimension to training. It's particularly around mobility work, strength and conditioning. I mean, I'm in my 40s at this point, so it's probably a good opportunity. It was the right time to do it. And you could probably ask Paul. I went and did everything. It's all on Training Peaks, and everything was green. There would be never a day or a session that would not be completed by me. I was absolutely hooked on it, and it actually worked, because in 2018 I had probably one of my best years. I won the British 100k champs. I got selected for the GBE 100k team. I went to Croatia and ran in the World Championships. I went to Comrades in South Africa and did the Comrades Marathon. And then I got invited over to a race in China as well. All expenses paid race in China. And that was a fantastic year. And I can only ever say I could never have done that on my own. There was no way that was going to happen if I'd continued training in my own way. But by handing it all over to Paul to arrange and for me just to follow it, I think I probably got to thank him for all of that, to be honest. And then even in the following year, 2019, I ran in the Anglo-Celtic Plate again and ran 6:51 for the 100k, again due to Paul's. I mean, at that point, I know I'd ran 2:31 at Berlin Marathon when I was 36 years old, and I thought that half decent marathon time. Again, average club runner can do 2:31. But I actually thought in 2019 I was approaching 47, and there was absolutely no doubt I would have smashed 2:30 if I'd have done a marathon that year, because I was in such good shape. And again, you've got to thank Paul for that. I didn't do a marathon that year, unfortunately. I was doing too many ultras. But yeah, if I had done a marathon, I know I'd have done well under 2:30. So yeah, it was great. A great experience with Paul. He's such a good guy. And actually my whole career up until this point was with the pylon outfit, and I became a coach in the pylon setup as well. But then, maybe the tail end of 2024, beginning of 2025, I had so much going on. I'd started coaching at my daughter's club outside of my own coaching with pylon, and sort of volunteer coaching. Still trying to finish a master's degree, family. My daughters are now both involved in the sport and other sports that they need to be ferried around, and something had to give. And I knew that I could give up the coaching side on the pylon world, because there's a whole suite of brilliant coaches already there. So any of my guys that were being coached by me could quite easily move across to the other coaches within the setup and get as much success as I could ever bring them. So yeah, I kind of amicably parted ways with pylon from a coaching perspective and being coached probably just over a year ago now. But yeah, he got me in some fantastic shape. I mean, I can't thank him enough for that.
So are you still a coach, or is that end of a chapter?
It's not. It was actually the beginning of a new chapter, because I started doing a lot more with the local athletics club. My kids are in different clubs, so I would help out with my youngest daughter's club whenever they needed me, and I'd be down at my eldest daughter's club helping out once or twice a week, and I'd be doing a lot of stuff around like cross country, team management, and lots of other stuff, just all volunteering. But my eldest daughter, she's actually much better than I ever was, but she was quite good. She is quite good, and she was because of that, the athletics club that she's in's got a really good sponsor behind them, and they gave athletes who won national titles or schools titles, they gave them a grant every year just to help out with kit, help out with shoes, help out with travel, help out with race expenses and all that kind of stuff. And my eldest got that for 2 to 3 years there, but she's recently moved club, and that new club don't have that set up. And so I thought, what can I do? Like, Imogen, my eldest, has been really lucky. She's been really lucky to get that grant, and it's been so helpful for us. And I just thought, I wonder if there's something I can do to help that, not just her, but help other athletes. Because I see other kids that she's running with that don't get the opportunities that she's had. And so I thought, I wonder if I can do some coaching, give a wee bit back to grassroots, and hopefully help other kids that are at Imogen's level, help with travel, kit, shoes, race entry, anything else, subsistence, you know, just for going away and staying overnight, accommodation, things like that. And so, yeah, I set up myself beginning of this year, endurance edge coaching, if anybody's looking for anything. And and it's been really good. You know, I've got a good bunch of athletes with me just now, starting to build up a little bit of revenue as well, which I'm hoping to start dishing out at some point this year. And it's going really well, getting lots of really good success with people. So I'm back in that fold again. I no longer have the master's degree that I need to worry about. That's done and dusted now. And I've got a little bit more capacity, and I suppose I'm happy to be sort of giving back to the grassroots sports that's given me so much. So that's where I am just now.
So if somebody wanted to be coached by you, how would they go about it?
Just hit me up. I think that's the phrase the kids use these days on any social media. You can find me on the coaching outfit is Endurance Edge Coaching. It's on Instagram, Facebook. Haven't ventured onto TikTok yet, and I don't go anywhere near X anymore. So that's the only two that I'm on, or even get in touch with me, How No Bob, on Instagram as well, or just any yeah. That's probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
And with your coaching, there's two questions from the back of this. What do you enjoy most? And opposite to that, what do you find most challenging?
Yeah, this is a good one, and I'm probably going to go down the standard answers for this because I think it's just so true. But you know, what I enjoy most about it is seeing athletes achieve the things they didn't think were possible, and that's really good. I mean, we spoke earlier offline about an athlete I had yesterday doing the John Muir Way Ultra, not for 30 minutes off his time from last year. He's absolutely delighted with that, and there's much more to come. So that kind of stuff really gets me going. It makes me really engaged with it all. And you know, it doesn't matter. It might be somebody just running their first race. I also had a lad who's over in Paris today doing the half marathon. Not really a runner, that's what he would say. But you know, we tried to get close to 2 hours. I think he'd done 2 hours 15. He ran 2:02 today. Absolutely delighted, and I'm absolutely delighted for him. He took a big chunk off of it. I started to catch up with him, get a bit of a debrief. So I'll get that hopefully over the coming days. And then I had another athlete over in Paris today who has had her problems with injuries and things like that over the years, a little bit of inconsistency. And we've had maybe the last 4 or 5 months of consistency. Nothing too major either, nothing too fast or hilly or anything like that, because it's been Achilles problems that she's had. And she ran 1:38 today, so not far away, maybe 5-6 minutes off of where her best would be. But it's just fantastic to see that kind of stuff. So yeah, that kind of stuff really motivates me, definitely. But you know, like, and running can feel like a really individual sport. Like, we're all a bit selfish when we go out and do our own training and what have you. But when you're coaching, I think you can realise how much progress from other people is built on trust and sort of consistency in training and good communication. And when an athlete buys into that and really sticks to the training and can see the results come together on like race day or what have you, or even just doing it for an adventure, that's probably the most satisfying bit for me. And I also enjoy problem solving. Sorry, Mike. My background's computing science, and my master's was cybersecurity. I've got a real problem solving background. That's what I do for a living. That's what I've done all my days. And so when I get, and every athlete's different, as you'll know. Everybody's different. Everybody has different physiology, different lifestyles, different pressures outside of work. And so you're constantly having to adapt and change and move and switch around what everybody's doing to try and get it. So that kind of problem solving bit of it really appeals to me. Yeah, sorry, I'm going on and on here.
No,
Jabbering
keep
away.
on going.
What was the other question? Was it a challenging part or something, was it?
Challenges. What do you find challenging about the coaching?
answering
think
this
probably.
question.
I think one of the things I find really challenging is managing expectations of people. I think we're kind of we're in this kind of world now, isn't it? So everything's quick win. It's like we all expect really quick progress, and as we all know, endurance running just does not work like that. It takes months of consistent work to see any kind of real progress. It just doesn't happen overnight, and I think helping athletes just to stay a bit patient, a bit more patient, and trust what we're doing can be a bit tricky, because you want to say, "Oh, last week I didn't do that session the same as I did the week before." Well, what's been happening? Oh, you've been down in London for 5 days. Been working hard or whatever. So I think that that can be challenging, managing expectations in that way. And I think maybe some of the other things is actually just the balance of life. People have so much going on. But like I say, I mean, I like problem solving, so that kind of stuff I do find that I do. But I like a challenge. I like these kind of challenges, and so yeah, I think part of coaching just is making sure that running fits into people's lives in a sustainable way, and rather than to become a source of stress, another source of stress. It needs to fit into everybody's life. So these are the challenges, but bring them on. That's what I enjoy.
And you mentioned that you may or may not have had some success in, what was it, the British Championships you mentioned?
Can I mention that?
No, I don't know.
Just glossed over it.
Would you say that that's your biggest running achievement, or has there been something else?
It's right up there, it has to be said. Yeah, I mean, it was unexpected, and yeah, right up there. And then pulling on a Scotland vest or a GBE vest is also really up there. But actual fact, my bigger running achievements have actually been when I've been with the pylon guys, and we've done, and I think this has been mentioned before on your podcast, around the endeavours that we took part in over a number of years. They're probably up there with the best things that I've ever done, but because they're not for yourself. We raised an enormous amount of money for charity. I think the first one was our double West Highland Way in 24 hours, was a relay, and I think we raised something like £28,000 or something like that. I mean, it's huge amounts of money for such a niche sport. To get that kind of backing from the community was just fantastic. And just the whole camaraderie of it as well. The actual day that the day that it happened. The kind of logistics of it all that kind of stuff. Again, it's all kind of problem solving. And we're all. I didn't do much of that, to be fair. At that time, it was all down to Paul and John Connolly and people like that. But I just turned up and ran. But I mean, I think those endeavours were brilliant. The Scottish National Trail, and that was just wonderful. I mean, some of the remotest parts of Scotland we were in running, and in the middle of the night, I'll never forget, Marco and I had a section to do. I think we started at 10 o'clock at night, and we were finishing at like 4 a.m. in the morning or something like that. Head torches on, multiple head torches, going over these what they're called, the cable ferries, the wire bridges. You've got a cable that goes across a river that's in spate, and then another cable up above to hold on to. And you've got to shimmy along these cables to get across them. These kind of memories were just fantastic. And I actually had a new the rave, the big rage at that point was the single skin Gore-Tex rainproof jackets, right? And they were like £300, and we all got a deal from somewhere, so we all had these Salomon ones on, and they were cheaper than £300. I never paid that for them, but everybody would be buying these Salomon ones, and everybody was moaning that as soon as they get into the wind, they were getting the Salomon was getting blown off them because they weren't sealed properly or something like that. So all the decals and that were on these jackets were all flying off them. Mine was brilliant. Mine was perfect, right? So I used to just say, mine's nothing wrong with mine, guys. Mine's just absolutely perfect. Running down, I don't even know where we were. We're in the middle of nowhere, tripped on a rock, went face down in the mud. My watch set off the alarm to send to my wife to say, come and get me, because she thought I'd fallen off a cliff. And I looked down, the only thing that was bothering me was a massive rip in this Gore-Tex jacket. I was gutted that after me moaning or bragging to everybody that mine was still in one piece and theirs was all falling apart. But there you go. But the endeavours were fantastic. I mean, it was all meeting up, and all getting together at Kirkyetham at the very end of it. We all had red pylon t-shirts on, running along the grass and all that. It was a wonderful experience, and we raised a lot of money for charity. So yeah, in terms of running, they're probably my best experiences rather than any particular race.
And you mentioned earlier on that you were out for a run today. So why do you still run?
Oh, this question. I think it's. I was trying to think about this today actually while I was out running, Nicky, but I didn't. You sent me another one, so I didn't get to think about it that well. But it's always one of those questions that it sounds really simple, isn't it? Why do you run? It's like a really simply phrased question. But I think the answer probably changes a bit over time. I think initially, certainly as an adult, I initially started just to get fit. And you realised how unfit I was and the sort of bad lifestyle that I had in my 20s and things. But it quickly became more than just that. It quickly became more than just trying to get fit. It gives you a sense of structure and purpose. And you've just said about my background. My background is all about structure, and it's all about, I'm a coder. That's essentially what I am. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm off the tools these days, but that's my background. It's like problem solving, structure, and what have you. And I think running gave me that, but also gave it to my other parts of my life as well. So when running's going well, other parts of your life go well too, and you can bring those skills in to other parts of your life. And it probably needed it as well. I think outside of work, I was probably pretty chaotic, self-destruct type lifestyle that I was on. So I think that is really important to me, that structure of training, that having a habit. Now, it's not like running's a part of my life now. It's not like a part of, it's a chore or anything like that. It's just something that I do every day. But I enjoy the simplicity of it as well. You just stick your shoes on, out the door, away you go, clear your head. That's what it's also really good for. But I think over the years, it's given me some incredible experiences, traveling to races, meeting new people through the sport. I've got some great memories from races, events, even supporting, great experiences from coaching. It just gives me so much satisfaction. That's probably why I still do it.
And with you say you run most days, every day, do you have a favourite session of type of run that you like to do? Do you enjoy speed or tempo, easy, long?
I actually love being on the trails. As a road runner, which I probably am, if I had to define myself as a runner, that would probably what I'd say I am. But I think that's like because of the situation I'm in. Like, it's difficult for me to get to the hills because I've got a lot to arrange outside of that, and the hills are not close. The Pentlands are 10 miles from here, so that is fairly close. But again, it's a 15 to 20 minute journey, and if you get stuck on the bypass, it's a 3-day journey just to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tend not to do that, but I think that's certainly what I'd like to be doing, a lot more of trails. But no, I'd probably just define myself as a road runner. Sorry, I've kind of lost the question. What was it? I'm getting a bit sidetracked.
What's your favourite kind of session for going out for a run?
Sessions, that's it. So probably even going back to the stuff we spoke about earlier in the HAD side of things, those threshold sessions I'm finding really useful just now. And I think it's because I'm now a lot older. Speed work doesn't come easy anymore. Like, really fast stuff doesn't come easy, and the incidence of injuries on it as well. My hamstrings have been dreadful for the last couple of years, just constantly niggling and constantly injuring. And as soon as I go up to any kind of speed, I can feel it again, and I just don't want to be out for any length of time. And so I've kind of settled back down again to threshold work, and sometimes I've been doing double threshold days and things like that, and it seems to be working quite well. So I think they're probably my best ones. Like today I did 36k, 37k. I did 12 by 2k in the middle of that with an easy warm-up and cool down. It's my long run, part of my long run, and I absolutely loved it. I was absolutely buzzing when I came back. Last week I think I did 5k in my long runs. During the week I was out doing 5k reps. I think I did 3 by 5k at sort of threshold pace. I just get a lot of enjoyment out of that. you get a lot of volume in without the injury proneness that I seem to have. So yeah, I think they're threshold sessions. That's a short answer. That's a very long way to say threshold sessions. And they seem to be fashionable these days. I've been doing them for since the had days, Mike. So but yeah, they're my best.
Well, you mentioned there you did your long run with a sort of tempo session in the middle. Yesterday, my run was 7-mile run to park run, did a decent session at park run, and then ran home. So
yeah,
same thing.
Yeah. I encourage my athletes to do that as well, especially if they're close to a park run, within 5-6 miles of it. I'll do exactly the same session. It's good. Yeah.
So you said that Nikki sent you a question earlier on, and that interrupted what you were thinking about, because you were going to answer the question that so you were thinking about coming on this podcast, obviously, because that's all everybody thinks about. But when you're not lining up to be on here, what are you normally thinking about when you're running?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Simple questions.
I think about when I'm running. Yeah, it's probably the same things as most people. It's like pacing, or what session you're doing, what kind of rep you're on. I actually got my arithmetic wrong today, so I counted wrong. But after 2 and a bit hours of hard work, my arithmetic just goes out the window, despite having a background in maths. There you go. And occasionally question why I'm doing it as well. I go through all those kind of phases. I think everybody does, but I think in an easy run, I probably just let my mind wander. I think we've all been in that kind of zone space where things thoughts just roll into your mind and then roll back out again and roll back in. It's almost a kind of zen. It's almost a kind of flow status that you get into. And I can never really remember what I've been thinking about, but I know I get home and I'm happy that the thoughts that I've been having have been good. So I think that's a lot of the stuff I do. I do a lot of easy running, so that tends to be what happens most of the time. But I think like during the sort of harder sessions, it's much less philosophical than that. It's usually about how much longer, or God, this hurts, or whatever, or how many more can I actually cope with this, or why am I doing this? I'm so old, and so all those kind of thoughts come into it. But yeah, it varies. It varies, just like everyone else, I think.
I like how you think about your sessions and do runner math, because I think a lot of people do that when they're doing a set session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've done epic events. You mentioned Comrades as well back in 2018. Is there a dream race or a bucket list race that's still on the list that you would love to go and do?
Yeah, I did think about this one, but I don't need to think about it much. In 2019, after the ACP, and I think I did a couple more races that year, I can't remember, but in November time, I entered the West Highland Way, and because I hadn't done it before, but I'd ran up and down that route God knows how many times. Like, I know at the back of my hand, either been in a race or just in training sessions and what have you. And I was so focused on it. That's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the West Highland Way. I wanted to compete. I was in really good shape. I wanted to see if I could worry anybody at the front of the race, that kind of thing. And so much so that I'd actually spent a fortune and went and did Trans Gran Canaria 2020 as part of the training for it, just to get some real elevation in a race environment. And that was brilliant over there. I absolutely loved that race. Didn't do particularly well in it, but against all the sort of mountain goats that live over that side of the world. But I was really focused on the West Highland Way. But came back from Trans Gran Canaria, back from Gran Canaria, and a week later we went straight into lockdown, and that was it. That was the West Highland Way dream over, and I was probably in the best shape of my life. I was pretty gutted about it, but I've never had the opportunity to go back to it. I've either been ill, injured, or I've moved away from ultras slightly, just temporarily. But certainly that's where I am just now. And so it's not your UTMBs or the Barclay Marathons. I know you had the lad on last week who was speaking about them, and then obviously other ones like Western States and all these kind of hard rock and all that, big ones. My bucket list is the West Highland Way. And 1 year I will do it. When I get back into it, I'll definitely get fit enough to complete it. I might not worry the guys at the front anymore, but I'll definitely complete it.
It sounds like you're getting back into it, and that is your target.
Not at the moment, no. I'm actually so busy, Mike. I can't afford the time anymore to be out there for 6 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday, or find the time to go away for a full day, just to go on a training session that lasts all day or whatever, you know. And I loved those days; they were absolutely brilliant. I'd love to be able to do it again, and I will eventually. But at the moment, there's too much other strings being pulled elsewhere that for me to do that. So I've got to come back down the distances a wee bit, and training's not as focused as it used to be. But yeah, it will get done, and I will focus on it. And I'll maybe go. I don't know if there's any age group records in there or anything like that I might have a wee go at, but we'll see. Maybe in the next few years I'll be able to get another opportunity at it.
Yeah.
Have you done the fling as well, Bob?
I've not done the race, no, but I've done the route many times. Yeah.
Do you have a favourite half then? Because you mentioned about doing the devil. Do you prefer like the fling side or the devil side?
Oh, the devil side. Yeah, it's just stunning, isn't it? I mean, Glencoe is just beautiful. So yeah, the fling, it's okay, isn't it? It's just okay. That loch side's horrendous, but some people love it, some people hate it. I'm in the latter camp. I absolutely hate it. It's just not my. Some people have a real knack for this kind of stuff. You know, I'm not a natural off-road runner. That's definitely not me. I mean, my cross country is diabolical. Even when I was at my fittest, my cross country's still terrible. And my trail running's not much better. But I actually love it more than I do the road. So hence why that's probably my bucket list one, and not like a return to Comrades or some other big road ultra. Yeah, it'll be the best time at me at some point soon. Watch this space.
And next question is, it can be a difficult one, but we ask everybody. Is there anybody that you would love to run with, either fictional or real, alive or not?
Yeah, there's two people, actually. And they're both alive as far as I know. And the first one is Kylie Minogue. I've had a crush on Kylie Minogue since I was about 14. And I know she does a bit of jogging. And so I think it would be great to get out for a run with Kylie and just see how she is. But on a more serious side, I think Steve Cram would probably be the guy I'd like to go for a run with. And it's only because it's come from, there's lots of people that I would love to go for a run with, don't get me wrong. But when I was a kid, Steve Cram was my hero. And sort of still is, I suppose, although his commentary's pretty rubbish. His running was absolutely superb. Actually, a funny story about him. You know, when I worked in Newcastle, my wife travelled down one weekend and we were going to go to Nice on holiday for a few days. And flying out of Newcastle Airport, sitting in the departure lounge, who's sitting directly across from me, about 6 meters away? Steve Cram, with an FT, like the Financial Times paper. Anyway, he was sitting directly across from me, and I'm going, "Is Steve Cram? Is that Steve Cram?" I was completely starstruck, and couldn't pluck up the courage to go over and say hello or anything like that. And then my wife said, she says, "You need to do it at the other end." He was on the same flight as us. He was going, I think he lives in Monaco, or probably around that area, or going to visit someone in Monaco, which is very close to Nice. And she said, wait to get to the other end when we're collecting our bags, go and speak to him. So the whole flight, I was like, right, what am I going to say to Steve? How am I going to bring this up? What's my first words going to be? I was completely panicking about it. I'm not normally like that, but I was for him. And he bloody went off the plane with hand luggage and just went straight out the airport, and I missed him. So I was absolutely gutted. I was all ready to meet my idol, and it didn't happen. So I'm kind of hoping I might do it at some point. But yeah, Cram, all seriousness, and Kylie for a bit of fun.
That's a fun answer. I like that. And then if Kylie's too slow, she's only small, isn't she? So you could pick her up.
Just put piggyback. Yep.
Yeah.
Put her in my ultimate direction sack.
Well, this week...
this is International Women's Day that we're recording on, so we don't condone putting people in sacks, especially women.
Well,
it was a comfort
this
thing,
week...
I was thinking about Kylie there, about comfort, that was all.
This week we're introducing a new element to the podcast, and you have the privilege of being asked the first question. So this question comes from last week's guest, Ian Bethune, and what he asked, and he didn't know who the guest was that's coming on this week. If you could invent a fantasy race, any course, any format, any distance, what would it be? And it is up to you whether you would run it or not.
Yeah, okay. How do we think about this today when I was out on my run? Because it actually came through as a message while I was on my long run in my warm-up section. And I don't know if it's your fault that I missed the one rep off the end, Nikki, because I was still thinking about it towards the end and my arithmetic went out or not. But yeah, I think if I do some kind of combo type thing, that's a really good question, by the way. I really like it. I'd probably start off with some kind of mountain trail section, right? Just up into the mountains, get up high. Nothing too strenuous, maybe, but somewhere that big landscape, somewhere, I don't know, for me it would be Glencoe, Torridon, somewhere like that. Big landscapes, big mountains around you, something like that. Maybe a few hidden waterfalls up there. The Falls of Glomach, stuff up maybe up that area is just beautiful. So up there, and then somewhere in the middle, you have to get onto a flat, fast road section. So you're gonna have to think about shoes. You're gonna have to think about kit. That kind of maybe a slight downhill just kind of tempts you into going a wee bit faster than you should, something like that. But I thought I'd also put in a few obstacles. So maybe like that wire bridge I was talking about earlier, the cable ferry, something like them. They were horrendous. When we did that, Marco just breezed across it. I thought I was going to end up in some firth somewhere, like getting carried away in the river, because I was all over the place. The whole thing was shaking like this. So I mean, some of those kind of things would be great. Nothing too ridiculous, of course, but just something maybe a wee bit challenging, and a few wire bridges maybe to throw in. Distance-wise, maybe 50, 60k. I think maybe some kind of adventure ultra. Maybe you could call it an adventure ultra. Long enough to feel like a good day out, a good epic day out, but not impossible for the majority of us. And I think there definitely have aid stations out there. They would be selling hot chocolate, not selling, giving away cake, maybe a cheeky gel or two, some chocolate, and absolutely I would run it. Probably be at a pace that I could enjoy the scenery and things like that, rather than it being a kind of flat out race. But I think it would be great to have it so that everybody finishes at roughly the same time. I don't know how the handicap system would work, but roughly the same time at a sunset with a medal. It's actually like a small compass or something like that, or even a bit of chocolate. Yeah, and maybe have some stories that they could tell for years to come.
That sounds like a great race.
Yeah.
And going forward for yourself, what's next running wise?
I'm running London Marathon in about 7 weeks today, I think it might be. So hence why all this threshold, all this marathon paced work I'm doing at the minute. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I did Inverness Marathon in September last year, and made all the schoolboy errors that I used to do when I first started running. So I've got a bit of a score to settle with the marathon. I'm going to try and go for a new age group PB. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah. And then it'll probably just be the summer of short road races and things just to tick over and see what happens later on this year and early next year.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about doing a race in China, all expenses paid. What kind of race was it? How was obviously they've got cultural differences to what we have over here. There's stories about you can't go into the country without being watched all 24/7. How was that?
It was interesting country. I mean, it's enormous. I don't think I'd appreciated the scale of it. When we flew into Wuhan, of all places, where the COVID-19 apparently started, allegedly started before you get into trouble with the lawyers. We flew into Wuhan and then we got into a bus. There was always people with you, right? There was always representatives from the organising committee around you at all points. So whether they were Secret Service or just normal people, I've no idea. But they escorted you off the plane, basically, escorted you into the bus, escorted you to the hotel, all that kind of stuff. There was always people around, Mike, and there was always a lot of people that could speak really good English as well with you. But the race itself was enormous. It was absolutely enormous. It's one of the big. It was like Comrades. It was for the amount of people that were in it, and there was a 50k and a 100k, and there was a few other people from the UK over that I knew. Actually, Paul Giblin was there as well. I think he was in New Zealand at the time and came over for it. He'd also managed to get himself an invite to it as well, so it was good to meet up with him, of course. But I think we were always watched. The race itself, it didn't go particularly well for me. I did the 50k because I'd been doing so many 100ks. My legs probably wouldn't take another 100k that year. But the experience was really good. It was actually funny. We had to pay for our flights ourselves. And all the accommodation and travel and food and all that was all put on for you when you got there. But they reimbursed you in dollars, American dollars, in an envelope. That's how you got your flights money back. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that said. I hadn't really thought too much about it, but it wasn't like, here's a bank transfer, an IBAN bank transfer. It was like, it was dollars you got back. It's a bit odd, but anyway, the food was even odder. I mean, I've got photographs of some of this stuff that you wouldn't feed a rat, this stuff, honestly. And that's not to say all Chinese food is like that. I'm not saying that at all. The hotel we were in, we had aardvark soup. Right? Got images of this stuff. I mean, I think Paul's vegan, so he wasn't touching the aardvark soup. Neither was anybody else, by the way. Nobody was touching that stuff. It was grey. It was like grey and watery. Like, I am not touching anywhere near that. But all I saw Paul eat all weekend was just rice. That was it. He never touched anything else. There was absolutely nothing else suitable for him. I don't think I ate much more than rice, actually, to be honest. So I'm sure China has got some fantastic food. It just wasn't in that hotel that we were in. But yeah, it was a different experience. I think we definitely always had company, that's for sure. Everywhere you went, there was company. You were never on your own. And the race was super well organised. Lots of support out as well. People lined the whole route. So it was similar to Comrades like that. What else was odd about it? Yeah, I think that's probably about it. It was an odd race. Yeah.
And get to the last question, unless Nikki's got anything else.
The only thing I'll say is I've got a really good friend that goes backwards and forwards to China for business, and some of the pictures she sends me of the food is, I'll vouch for you. We're like, what is that? And then sometimes it's like, oh yes, that's clearly a bird claw. Like, how are you eating that? And the fish have still got the heads on them. I mean, that would actually be more normal probably, but no, it's not for me either.
Yeah, I remember the fish soup had full fish in it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my soup is okay straight out of the tin.
Definitely.
Right. If somebody was starting out, and it might be yourself starting running again for the second time, what would be the thing that you would tell that runner?
How do we think about this today as well, actually? So I think probably the most important thing is like starting again, which is what I've done. And it might have seemed like at the time, it's not the same as starting from scratch, starting from nothing. So I think even if you've had time away from the sport, even if it's a prolonged period of time, or it's through injury or illness or life just getting busy and you've lost a bit of motivation and that, you're still going to bring all the experiences you've had before, all the stuff that you've built up before. You know what training's going to feel like. You know how the races work. You know how fueling and works. And you've probably got a good understanding of your own like strengths and weaknesses, much better than you did the first time around. So it's never going to be. It shouldn't ever be as daunting, and maybe people should maybe not think about it being as daunting as it maybe is to someone who's never done it before. But I think the key to it all is just to be patient, and focus on rebuilding some consistency, and go back to that again rather than going out and just hitting it hard, because you're just going to. It's a one-way road to injury, illness, or both. And so fitness will come back surprisingly quickly if you just build a bit of consistency into your training. Don't do anything too overwhelming. Pick some races as well, maybe in the future, just to give yourself a little bit of more extra motivation to aim for, and start to build your program or your training around that sort of race. Most runners go through phases like that, you know, and some people have a lot of time away, and sometimes you just need a bit of a reset from it all as well. And I totally get all that. But I think it's part of that. I think it's part of the sport. But I think if you stay consistent, keep things in sort of perspective in that as well, you'll often come back much stronger. And I think that's one of the things that probably does happen quite a lot.
And with that being said, Bob's not out of running at the moment, but he's out the, what he would say, the ultra scene. He's going to come back. He's going to take it easy. He's going to focus on one race, and that's going to be the West Highland Way.
Yeah, it's all fitting together, this, Mike, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like we planned it. And when that happens, all we can say is good luck, whenever that happens. And
thank you very much.
It comes from me to say thank you, Bob, for coming on. Thank you, Nikki, for being Nikki, and it's goodbye from me.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much.